Hey everyone, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Keisha, and today I'm going to be talking about all the books I hope to read in the month of January. January is always one of my favorite TBRs to make because I really want to set out to read some of my favorite books at the beginning of the year. So I always try to pick books that I'm hopefully going to love, especially for my first reads. This month is going to be a really fun TBR also because I'm going to be co-hosting a readathon that I have some books here for. I'm also going to be doing a couple of buddy reads, and I'm going to try to participate in a reading challenge. I have 10 books on my TBR that I'm hoping to get to this month, so let's just go ahead and jump right into it. My first read for the year is going to be The Younger Wife by Sally Hepworth. Last year, I discovered this author thanks to my friend Elizabeth, and I fell in love with the two books that I read from her and gave them both 5 stars. So I feel like Sally Hepworth may be a new favorite author for me, but I do want to give another one of her books a try before I make such a bold statement. So this is going to be like a third time's the charm. Hopefully this will be another 5-star read, or at least one that I really enjoy. The synopsis says, the husband, a heart surgeon at the top of his field, Stephen Aston, is getting married again. But first he must divorce his current wife, even though she can no longer speak for herself. The daughters, Tully and Rachel Aston, look upon their father's fiancée Heather as nothing but an interloper. Heather is younger than both of them. Clearly she's after their father's money. The former wife. With their mother in a precarious position, Tully and Rachel are determined to get to the truth about their family's secrets, the new wife closing in, and who their father really is. The younger wife. Heather has secrets of her own. Will getting to the truth unleash the most dangerous impulses in all of them? So this sounds really good. If you don't already know, Sally Hepworth is tagged as a thriller author, but I really see her books as more of suspense and family drama, which is not something that I would have expected to love. So it was definitely a surprise to me last year when I enjoyed her books. So I'm really excited to get to this one, and I think it'll be a great first read for the year. Next, I'm going to be doing a reread of one of my favorite books of all time. This was the book that got me back into reading a few years ago, and I'm really excited to revisit it, especially because it's going to be a buddy read with my friend Gwen from Gwendolyn Kinsinger, and she has never read this one before, so it's going to be a fun time, and that is The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society by Marianne Shaffer and Annie Barrows. This is a historical fiction epistolary novel, meaning it is written entirely in letters. It is also very short, and I'm really excited to read it because I feel like I'm going to fly through it. 1, because it's short, and 2, because it's an all-time favorite and I'm just really going to enjoy revisiting it. I think there's a little bit of fear in that too, because knowing it's a favorite, what if I reread it and don't love it as much? So I guess we'll just have to see. But if you don't already know what this one is about, it follows our main character Juliet, and she is starting to receive letters from a man named Dawsey who lives on the island of Guernsey. Dawsey has discovered this book, and he is hoping that Juliet, whose name was also in the book, as well as her address, will be able to help him find more books by this author that he has now discovered. Along the way, Dawsey ends up telling Juliet about the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society that was formed during World War II. Juliet then begins to have correspondence with the other members of the society, so you get letters between Juliet and Dawsey, as well as Juliet and her publisher, because she is a writer and writing a new book. And then you also have correspondence between Juliet and the different members of the society as she is learning how they formed and how this society really brought these people together during a time of hardship. As an added bonus, there is also a romance that ensues in here as well, and I just think this book is absolutely phenomenal. I'm not a huge historical fiction reader, so the fact that this is a book that I loved so much really makes me happy and makes me realize how well this book is written. I'm also really excited to watch the movie. There was a Netflix adaptation of it that I really enjoyed. The endings are slightly different, but I love each of them on their own, and I'm excited to watch that again as well. Next up, I have another buddy read, and this is one of my auto-buy authors. I have read all of her books to date, so I'm really excited to read this one that just came out, and it is A Wilderness of Stars by Shea Ernshaw. I'm going to be buddy reading this with Liv from Liv's Library, and I am really excited to share this experience with her because we have both really loved Shea Ernshaw's work. She has a very beautiful poetic writing style that is so atmospheric, so I'm really excited to dive into this one. Typically, she writes a little bit more fantasy. She has kind of delved into some other things, and I think this one may be a little bit more sci-fi. The synopsis says, Vega has lived in the valley her whole life, forbidden by her mother to leave the safety of its borders because of the unknown threats waiting her in the wilds beyond. But when Vega sees an omen in the sky, one she cannot ignore, she is forced to leave the protective boundaries of the valley. Yet the outside world is much more terrifying than Vega could have ever imagined. People are gravely sick. They lose their eyesight and their hearing just before they lose their lives. But Vega has a secret. She is the last astronomer, a title carried from generation to generation, and she is the only one who understands the knowledge of the stars. Knowledge that could hold the key to a cure. So when locals spot the tattoo on Vega's neck in the shape of a constellation, the mark of an astronomer, chaos erupts. Fearing for her life, Vega is rescued by a girl named Cricket, who leads her to Noah, a boy marked by his own mysterious tattoos. On the run from the men hunting her, Vega sets out across the plains with Cricket and Noah in search of a fabled cure kept secret by the astronomers. But as the line between friends and protectors begins to blur, Vega must decide whether to safeguard the sacred knowledge of the astronomers or if she will risk everything to try to save them all. I think this is going to be a really good book. I have not been disappointed by this author so far, so I feel like if anything, it will at least be a 4-star read, so I'm really excited to get to this one. Next up, I have my TBR for the New Year New Reads Readathon, which is going to be taking place from January 9th through January 15th. This readathon is hosted by my friend Gabby from Gabbing About Books, as well as myself, Gwen from Gwendolyn Kinsinger, and Summer from Seasons Readings. This is a really chill, laid-back readathon just as a way to get some new reads in this new year. So there are 3 prompts for the readathon, and I have 3 different books to fill those prompts. I may end up starting a little bit early just because I have a trip the end of the readathon week, so hopefully I will be able to get to all of these. The first prompt is to read a new to you author, and I have chosen Sophie Cousens as my new to you author. This is an author that I've really been interested in for a couple of years, but I haven't had any of her books, but I've really wanted to pick them up. And this year I was gifted this time next year, and I'm really excited to get to this one because it is a little bit of a New Year story, so it's very fitting to read this time of year. This is the story of Minnie Cooper, which I still can't get over that name because she's literally named after a car, and she was born on New Year's Day, but she has always despised her birthday because it has been unlucky from the day she was born, because she shares a birthday with Quinn Hamilton, which is a man she's never met. Their mothers gave birth to them at the same hospital just after midnight on New Year's Day, but Quinn was given the cash prize for being the first baby born in London in 1990, and the name Minnie was meant to have as well. So she has had terrible birthdays from the get-go. It just seems like there is one disaster after another. These 2 people come from 2 totally different worlds, but they end up bumping into each other on their 30th birthday, and it seems that they keep bumping into each other, and there might be a little bit of a romance that ensues from there. I am really excited to get to this one, especially like I said, because it is centered around New Year's, so hopefully this will be another new favorite romance. The next prompt for the readathon is to read a book that you meant to read last year. And I'm not going to go into the synopsis of this book because you guys have heard me say it 10,000 times. If you don't already know what this book is, let me just go ahead and tell you. I am going to read The Children on the Hill by Jennifer McMahon this month, if it is the last thing that I do. I know that I'm going to love this. I hope that I love it as much as I've loved her other books, but this is essentially a Frankenstein-inspired story about a woman who is a child psychiatrist. There's some creepy kids in this book. There are monsters in this book, and I'm really excited to finally get to this one for this readathon. And the last book that I'm going to be reading for the readathon that fulfills the prompt of reading the newest book that you bought or that you own, or the newest book that was gifted to you, whatever, your newest book on your shelf is essentially the prompt. That is going to be Lost in the Moment and Found by Seanan and McGuire. I don't own this one yet because it doesn't come out until January 10th, but this is the 8th book in the Wayward Children series, which I have been reading ever since it started, and I've absolutely loved it. I don't think I love it as much now as I did at the beginning because it's kind of waned a little bit, but I think there's only going to be 2 or 3 more books in the series, so I do want to finish it so I can say I completed such a long series. These are novellas, so it's not like that big of an accomplishment, but it is for me because I've continued with it for so long. So if you don't already know, this just follows children who are part of Miss West Home for Wayward Children, which is a school for these kids who have gone through these doors one point or another in their life. They can either go through like doors or chests or trees or oceans or anything like that, and they find themselves in new worlds where they really feel like they belong. But for one reason or another, they end up getting cast back into the real world, and they end up at Miss West School, at least most of them do, and they are either trying to figure out a way to get back into the worlds that they fell in love with or get accustomed to the world they are back in. This is a portal fantasy series that I've really enjoyed, and if you haven't checked it out, like I said, they are novellas, so I would highly recommend picking up the first book, Every Heart a Doorway. I'm really excited to continue and see where this goes from here. Next up, things are about to get interesting because I have 2 books here that I thought that I would never read. Either authors that I thought I would never read, books that I never thought I would read, and I just thought that it would be a fun idea to do a vlog of me reading 2 of these books that I said I would never read and that I'm probably not going to like, but I might be surprised. You never know. You just really never know, I'm telling you. So I thought it would be fun to vlog these books and kind of give you my thoughts so you guys could see what I thought about some of the most popular books on the bookternet. So the first one I have is going to be a buddy read with my friend Elise from A Virgo Rising Reads, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I was not a huge fan of Leigh Bardugo's Grishaverse trilogy. She just did not have writing that really piqued my interest or stories that held my interest, and I just overall wasn't really impressed with anything that I read by her. So I kind of swore her off as an author. I was just like, not anything personal against her, but I just thought, this is not an author for me. These are not going to be books that I enjoy. I'm also not a big fantasy reader, so it just makes sense that I wouldn't read any more of her books. But my interest has been piqued in Ninth House, which is a dark academia fantasy novel about this girl named Alex who is at Yale, and it has to do with a lot of these different secret societies. So I thought that I might enjoy this one. It is a little bit chunky for my taste, but again, I am buddy reading this with Elise, so I think it'll be fun to be able to chat about it with a friend. And the other book, which I know all of you are so excited that I'm reading, you're either excited that I'm reading this or you're like, oh no, we're gonna have some disagreements about this book. Don't read this, you're gonna hate it. But you know what? I'm gonna read it anyways. I'm gonna read my first Colleen Hoover book, and I'm gonna read Verity, which supposedly I'm gonna hate because of smut and because of other things that I'm just not gonna like. I don't know. I actually saw, you know, there's like this on Bookstagram, there is this, I don't know what the page is called, but they post Goodreads ratings of books that are just hilarious. And one of the posts that was a review, someone's actual review on Goodreads, said that this person DNF'd the book as soon as something was mentioned as effable. And I was like, I'm not gonna like this, but I'm gonna read it anyways, because you never know, like, there could be things that I don't like about it, but I could end up being surprised by something and enjoying it. And it's short, so I don't have to suffer for very, very long. But I'm going to be buddy reading this with my friend Gwen, who has read this before, and it's one of her favorites. And so we're kind of doing this, you read one of my favorites and I'll reread it. I'll read one of your favorites and you reread it type situation. So I'm excited to have somebody to talk to this one through as well. And the last couple of books on my TBR are a little bit lower of priority just because I'm not sure if I'll be able to get to all of them because I am going to be pretty busy this month. But I did want to try, and the first one is the RomCom Agenda. I don't have this one with me. I can't remember the author's name right now, but this one is releasing in January, and I really wanted to give it a try because I've really been enjoying romances lately. And all I remember about this one is it is about the RomCom Agenda. Basically, these friends are trying to help, like all these girls are trying to help this guy friend get a girl and live his life out as a rom-com. They're trying to turn him into essentially a rom-com heartthrob. So they're trying to change him and make things better about him. And one of the girls thinks that he is perfect the way that he is. And I think there may be a little bit of a romance that comes from that, a friends to lovers romance. So I'm really excited to read that. I think that's one of my favorite romance tropes. So hopefully I will have the opportunity to get to that one in January too. And the last book that I'm hoping to get to fulfills a prompt for a reading challenge. So my friend Gwen from Gwendolyn Kinsinger has a podcast called Talk Bookish to Me, and is also over on Instagram as well. She has a reading challenge this year where she has prompts for each month, and I do want to try to participate. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do every month. There may be some prompts that I don't have a book to fill that for, but I did have this month's prompt, so I'm going to add this to my list and see if I have time to get to it. But the prompt for January is to read a book that has like an isolated setting, and I have The Guest House by Morgan-Bentley. I got this book for Christmas and I'm really excited to get into it. This is a novel that follows a couple who are pregnant and they want to go on one last vacation before they become parents. So they go stay at this secluded cabin. The owners of the cabin are super nice and they feel really at home until the next morning when they wake up and find that their keys and their phones are missing. The owners of the place are nowhere to be found and the doors are locked and they cannot get out. On top of that, the woman who's pregnant seems to think that she might be going into labor, and it is very important for them to get out and to get her to a hospital. So This is a very tense, suspenseful, thrilling sounding story. So I have not heard a lot of people talk about it, but I have heard a few rave reviews. So I'm really excited to see what I think of this one. And that is going to be my January TBR for you, save the 2 books that I don't have yet. I'm really hoping it is going to be a successful reading month, taking into consideration that I do have 2 books here that I may hate, but I'm not going to start my month like that, so we'll just have to see. But I'm really excited to get to all of these. You'll have to let me know down in the comments if you know which one of these might end up being my favorite for the month, or let me know if you are interested in any of these books. Also, if you've made it this far in the video, go ahead and leave me a book stack emoji down below and let me know if you would like what book you are most excited to get to in January. I hope that you and I both have a fantastic reading year and a great start to 2023. I love you all so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, friends.